Being spat out of one of those giant roaring Hawaiian tubes is the most amazing sensation I've ever experienced in my life. It's joy, fear and accomplishment all rolled into one experience. Sean Thompson. Hatha yoga has a long history and is deeply embedded in Indian culture, which is replete with all sorts of religious and mythological ideas about the practice's ultimate significance. Despite variations among differing schools of Hatha yoga, several core elements have emerged and become widely adopted worldwide. These include mastery of body postures, known as asanas, mastery of hand positions, known as mudras, mastery of breath control, known as pranayama, and mastery of concentration, known as dhyan. The combinatorial aim of this fourfold methodology was to achieve liberation during one's lifetime from the sufferings of human existence. Achieving such an enlightened state is known by various names, including moksha or nirvana. What is much less known is how yoga, shorn of its theological overlays and spiritual ultimacies, is similar in many ways to the art of bodysurfing. At first glance, this may seem like a gross exaggeration, but on closer inspection, it is clear that a bodysurfer adept at riding waves actually employs yoga's fourfold technique. For example, imagine the following scenario. You are out at 40th Street in the ocean at Newport Beach in California. A 6-foot wave approaches, most likely generated from a storm off the coast of New Zealand, more common in the summer. And as you correlate your position with the wave's momentum, you position your body just right, asana, so as to best navigate the elevating drop. As you do so, you adjust your hands accordingly, mudras, to better hydrofoil the steep slide. But while doing all this, your breathing, pranayama, becomes much more pronounced, with deep inhales and moments of prolonged oxygen retention. Riding the wave, your concentration, dhyan, dramatically increases as you try to see if you can somehow navigate the collapsing tube and find an exit. Instead, however, you are sucked over the falls, and as you are being tossed, you know from experience that you must hold your breath and not panic. Finally, after being released from Neptune's whitewater washing machine, you float to the surface and take an intoxicating gulp of air. Swimming back to the lineup, you attempt to be more rhythmic in your breathing so to conserve energy for the next set that may arrive sooner than later. You repeat this same pattern over the course of a 2-hour session. Every advanced bodysurfer knows this ritual intimately and have reenacted it countless times when riding waves at their favorite spots. What most bodysurfers may not be aware of, however, is how closely bodysurfing mimics key aspects of Hatha yoga. I too didn't realize the similarity until I came upon a book entitled Yoga for Health when I was in my early teens. The author, Selvaryan Yasudian, tells a fascinating anecdote concerning a young man named John Kennedy, not to be confused with the United States president of the same name, living in Madras, South India, who was suffering from extreme weight loss and didn't know how to gain it back. He was advised to practice yoga, but he resisted. However, when Selvaryan came back to visit the same beach weeks later, he found the young man had been completely transformed and was in great shape. Much to my surprise, he was not lying in the sand so much, but accompanying the 16 and 17-year-old Indian boys during their wave riding. After a few weeks, he became so skillful that he could go out in the water up to his mouth then turn his back to the approaching wave, stretch out flat, and let the wave drive him towards the shore as fast as an arrow. When he reached shallow water, he waded back to the noisy, laughing group. I inquired about his new sport, and he laughingly assured me he had found a way to enjoy himself in the water. Immediately I went with him to take part in the wave-riding game, and by the very next day I had solved the riddle. In expectation of the wave, the swimmer, Bodysurfer, takes a deep breath and then lies down in the water with his face forward. As long as he is carried by the water, or wave, he can only breathe at intervals. He takes a deep breath and is forced to retain it. This is repeated several times until he reaches shallow water. For at least 30 or 40 seconds, he is forced to retain his breath. John E. Kennedy was not swimming a single stroke, and yet he was performing a perfect pranayama exercise, half an hour daily, day after day. When I explained the cause of the miraculous gain in weight and the biological health controlling effect of breathing exercises, his opinion about Indian pranayama changed immediately. For breath is life, says an old Sanskrit proverb, and if you breathe well, you will live long on earth. Bodysurfing involves a natural process of breath control, and it was for this reason that the yogi exclaimed that it was a perfect pranayama exercise. What he failed to notice, however, was that bodysurfing also involves other facets of Hatha yoga, particularly among those who are adept in riding waves with full body immersion. Indeed, even some of the physical contortions that expert bodysurfers utilize mirror many of the prescribed asanas advocated in Hatha yoga. Of course, bodysurfing, unlike yoga, is much more dynamic, since the bodysurfer must adapt moment to changing water and weather conditions. Bodysurfing can be likened to a form of spontaneous yoga because its very process necessitates fluid and unexpected responses. Moreover, where one body surfs alters how one navigates the wave, since different locales demand different approaches. The yoga of body surfing is by its very nature condition dependent, and thus dramatically contrasts with performing exercises on a mat. The Wedge in Newport Beach, California is arguably the most famous body surfing spot in the world. It is one of the only places in the world where there are exclusive hours during the day set aside for body surfers only. It is also one of the most exciting and dangerous waves in the United States, even though it only breaks well on south and southwest swells, which usually arrive between the months of early April to late October. What makes the Wedge unique, and where it derives its name, is due to the long rock jetty that was created at the entrance of the Newport harbor back in the 1930s. On ideal days, there is a pilot wave that bounces off the jetty that combines with the larger swell to form a very steep and enlarged peak. Master body surfers at the spot must be able to position their head, torsos, arms and hands just right in order to navigate the vertical descent and ride the wave's contoured face. One famous asana mudra is known simply as the Fred. It was so named in honor of Fred Simpson, a pioneer body surfer at the Wedge in the 1960s and 1970s and founder of the Viper fin brand. Later, this asana evolved into what has been termed the chicken wing. In both cases, the body surfer is attempting to adapt his body to maximize both his or her position and momentum to the ever-changing surface of the wave. While such an asana can be taught, among the premier riders it borders on a bodily intuition where one's contortions are done almost unconsciously and spontaneously. One of the most scenic body surfing spots in the world is Point Panic, just across Kewalo Basin on the south shore of Oahu in the Hawaiian Islands. Although it is an inconsistent break, necessitating south or southwest swells which typically occur in the summer seasons, it is considered by many aficionados to be the ideal wave for high-performance body surfing. Unlike the Wedge, which is mostly a left slide over sand, Panic is predominantly a right-hand reef break. Point Panic, known among the locals as Panics, provides beautifully shaped right peaks that allow the body surfer to ride inside the tube and come out unscathed, at least occasionally. Point Panic boasts some of the finest body surfers in the world. These wave-riding connoisseurs have developed a unique asana and mudra to contort their bodies and hands so as to optimize the pulsating shape of the wave. Back in the summer of 1993, when I first rode the spot for the first time, the then mayor of Panic termed the tube riding style as driving the truck, where one's arms and hands curl in order to better spin up and down through the wave cylinder. The tightly wound spinner has been perfected to an art form at Panic's. Body surfing is a liquid form of yoga that involves all of one's senses within an oceanic arena. What makes it distinct from more traditional forms of Hatha yoga is that it is practiced on an ever-moving body of water where split-second decisions must be made both consciously and unconsciously. As such, it is both instinctual and cerebral. Moreover, body surfing is a process which doesn't necessitate a goal, save maybe successfully exiting a finely shaped tube on occasion. It is rather a method for being attuned to the present moment and foregoing the technological madness that has overtaken our civilization, where staring at computer screens for hours on end has become the norm. The yoga of body surfing simply mirrors what dolphins, seals, and other highly evolved mammals have enjoyed doing for countless centuries, feeling and navigating the rush of cascading water against one's skin.